Welcome. So I want you to picture the massive, moving machine that is global trade. We're talking millions of containers crossing oceans every single day, packed with everything from that smartphone in your pocket to the food sitting on your table. But here's the crazy part. Behind every single physical box that moves across the globe, there is a completely hidden, absolutely massive mountain of paperwork. In this explainer, we're going to demystify the 37 import-export documents that literally keep the world moving. We'll take what usually feels like a giant administrative maze and turn it into a clear, chronological journey.
Now this begs a really important question. What actually happens when just one single document is missing from this massive stack? You might think, oh, it's just a clerical error, no big deal, we'll fix it later. But the reality of international trade, it's far more brutal. The entire global supply chain is surprisingly fragile, and trust me, customs authorities do not play around with missing paperwork.
The real-world consequences of a slip-up are severe. A single missing or even just slightly inaccurate form can trigger a devastating domino effect. We're talking massive shipment delays that can completely ruin production schedules. We're talking severe customs penalties and skyrocketing storage charges while your cargo just sits there, completely frozen at a terminal. In the absolute worst-case scenarios, it can even lead to total cargo confiscation. So yeah, this is exactly why mastering these documents matters so much to absolutely anyone involved in business or logistics.
Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. To make sense of all 37 of these forms, we're going to organize them into a life cycle, basically following a single shipment, from the very first order to the final warehouse delivery. We'll start with Phase 1, sealing the deal, then move to Phase 2, moving cargo, Phase 3, navigating borders, Phase 4, arrival and final delivery, and finally wrap up with Phase 5, the future of logistics.
Let's start right at the beginning with Phase 1, sealing the deal. This is all about laying the legal and financial groundwork. It's the critical preparation that has to happen before a single product even hits the factory floor.
So how does an international deal legally come to life? Well, it kicks off with the buyer issuing a purchase order, or PO. This requests the specific goods and sets a basic schedule. The seller then fires back with a pro forma invoice. Once both sides hash out and agree on those initial details, they lock it all in with a sales contract. This contract is the legal backbone of the entire shipment. It dictates the exact product specs, the delivery terms, and exactly how any disputes will be resolved. Only after this solid foundation is laid does the factory actually begin production.
Now, let's clear up something that trips up a lot of beginners. What is the difference between a pro forma invoice and a commercial invoice? It's simple, really. Think of the pro forma as an estimate or a quote. It's sent before the shipment for the buyer's approval. Maybe they need it to apply for an import permit or a letter of credit, but it is absolutely not a payment document. The commercial invoice, on the other hand, that's the real deal. It's issued by the exporter when it's actually time for payment processing, tax calculation, and official customs valuation.
Because of that, the commercial invoice is really the absolute hero document of international trade. It's hands down the most important piece of paper in the entire stack. It lists the exact unit prices, the agreed-upon Incoterms, the country of origin, and the HS codes. Without this specific document, customs authorities literally cannot calculate import duties, and the buyer simply cannot legally pay the seller. It anchors the whole financial transaction.
All right, with the paperwork signed and the goods manufactured, we transition to Phase 2, moving cargo. This is the transportation paper trail where we meet the real heroes of logistics.
Getting your cargo onto a massive ocean vessel requires a very specific sequence. Step 1 is the packing list. Unlike your invoice, this usually doesn't show any prices. Instead, it gets into the physical details, the exact weights, dimensions, and the number of cartons. The exporter then takes that list to create Step 2, the shipping instruction. This tells the freight forwarder exactly what the cargo is and where it needs to go. That instruction then generates Step 3, the booking confirmation from the shipping line, which officially locks in your vessel, your departure date, and your container number.
And this brings us to the ultimate logistics document, the bill of lading, or B/L. If the commercial invoice is the financial anchor, the bill of lading is the physical anchor. It serves three incredibly powerful legal functions. First, it's a receipt confirming your cargo is actually loaded. Second, it's the official contract of carriage between the shipper and the carrier. And third, and this is the big one, it is a document of title. That means whoever legally possesses this piece of paper literally owns the goods while they're floating out there on the ocean. It's basically the cargo's passport and train ticket all rolled into one.
You'll often see a split between the two main types of ocean bills of lading. First, there's the House Bill of Lading. This one is issued by your freight forwarder, which legally makes the forwarder the carrier from your perspective. Then there's the Master Bill of Lading. This is issued physically by the actual shipping line directly to the freight forwarder. The two work together in tandem to track both who is organizing the move and who is physically sailing the ship. Now, what if you aren't using an ocean vessel? For air shipments, the bill of lading is replaced by an airway bill. Because air travel is so much faster, the documentation process has to keep up, right? But there is a massive legal difference you need to know. Unlike an ocean bill of lading, an airway bill is not negotiable. In fact, scratch that. It's not a document of title at all. It's strictly a receipt and a transport contract.
So, the ship has sailed, or the plane has flown. Now we hit Phase 3, navigating borders. This is where customs and regulatory compliance come into play, and absolute, rigid perfection becomes your only option.
Let's talk about the documents that act as the border protectors. Customs authorities demand these to make sure everything is legal, safe, and of course, taxed correctly. You've got your customs declaration, the cargo manifest listing every single item on the vessel, and your insurance certificate just in case of a disaster. But the really interesting one here is the certificate of origin. It officially certifies exactly where the goods were manufactured. If you're shipping between countries with a free trade agreement, having the right preferential certificate of origin can drastically reduce your import duties. It's quite literally a piece of paper that saves you money.
You'll also deal with the HS code, or Harmonized System Code. Every single physical product in the world has one of these. It tells customs exactly what the product is, which then determines your specific duty rates, your VAT, and whether you need special import licenses to bring it into the country. Listen, getting these exact numbers wrong is the absolute fastest way to trigger massive customs fines or get your shipment confiscated. Accuracy here is totally non-negotiable.
Depending on what exactly you're shipping, you might also have to provide specialized cargo certificates. Shipping fresh fruits, plants, or agricultural products, you're going to need a phytosanitary certificate. Moving pharmaceuticals, seafood, or meat, a health certificate is mandatory. And if you pack your goods on raw wooden pallets, Customs wants a fumigation certificate to ensure no invasive bugs are hitching a free international ride. Naturally, any chemicals require a dangerous goods declaration, outlining precise emergency procedures.
Once Customs clears your paperwork, we enter Phase 4, Arrival and Final Delivery. This is about releasing the cargo and managing the final leg of the journey.
Closing the loop requires one last relay race of handoffs. First, the shipping line sends an arrival notice to let the importer know the vessel is pulling into port. Once the importer pays their freight charges and finishes all the documentation we just talked about, they're issued a delivery order. This finally allows them to collect the cargo. A gate THAS then physically authorizes the truck to move the container out of the terminal, and finally, when the goods arrive at the buyer's own warehouse, they issue a goods received note. This confirms the exact quantity received, the condition it arrived in, and marks the formal acceptance of the goods.
It's really incredible when you step back and look at the collaborative effort required. The responsibility for all these documents is distributed across so many parties. The buyer handles the purchase order. The exporter issues the commercial invoice. The shipping line takes care of the bill of lading. You've got the insurance company issuing coverage and the customs broker submitting the declarations. It requires a massive amount of coordination across all these different entities just to move one single box from point A to point B.
And that brings us to our final section, Phase 5, the future of logistics. Let's look at how this massive, historical mountain of paperwork is finally evolving.
First, let's talk about basic survival right now. To avoid those catastrophic and costly errors we talked about earlier, you need strict best practices. This means maintaining standardized document checklists for every single shipment. You absolutely must verify information consistency, meaning the weights on your packing list perfectly match your commercial invoice and your bill of lading. And increasingly, top logistics companies are moving to digitize this entire process using electronic document management systems to safely track everything.
In fact, as our source material clearly points out, companies are increasingly adopting digital trade documentation, electronic bills of lading, and automated customs declarations. We are finally, slowly but surely, moving away from physical paper being couriered across the globe. Adopting these integrated digital platforms isn't just a nice-to-have anymore, it's becoming a mandatory capability if you want to compete with the speed and transparency that today's market demands.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought. As we look to the future, will automated platforms and digital systems completely eliminate the global paper trail as we know it? Or
Because of the deeply complex, legal, and international nature of these transactions, will understanding and mastering the foundational logic behind these 37 documents remain the ultimate competitive advantage for the smartest players in global trade? Thanks for exploring this massive machine with me, and I'll leave you to think about that one.